be in close range with your opponent. Once you elevate your knee, you can kick your opponent's face or stomach. Now we'll demonstrate a kick where you throw it towards the outside of your opponent's body, but then at the last minute, you change its path and kick to the inside of your opponent's body.
É golpe que ele sai aqui, ó, e entra por dentro.
There are two ways to throw this kick. The first method is the kick using the top of your foot and a little bit of your shin. The second method is the kick using the ball of your foot. You can kick using the top of your foot or the ball of your foot.
Usando essa parte do pé. Tem duas formas, certo? Solta. Ou bico.
Once you land the kick, you want to get out of the way to avoid a counterattack. Now I'll demonstrate ashibarai, which is a sweeping technique or takedown.
Raspar o adversário ou de derrubar.
It is a simple movement, but in order to be effective with it, you have to use it with proper technique and timing. With this technique, your weapon is the bottom of your foot. You execute the sweep using the bottom of your foot. It can also be executed with either your front or rear foot. Back or front. One more time, back or front.
Perna de trás ou frente.
The goal with this technique is to destroy your opponent's base by attacking his front leg. If your opponent has his weight on his front leg, it will be very difficult to sweep him. In order to be effective with the sweep, you must first take his weight off his front leg. To accomplish this, I throw a punch. As he shifts his weight backward to defend against the punch, I execute the sweep and destroy his base. You can also execute this technique with your back foot. If your opponent is close, then you can execute the technique the instant he shifts his weight onto his back leg. If he is farther away from you, I make a small step to close the distance and assume a more dominant angle of attack. I force my opponent to take his weight off his front leg, and then I execute the sweep. Get his weight off his front leg, and then sweep. One more time from another angle. Get the weight off his front leg, and then sweep. When I strike my opponent to get him to shift his weight backward, I can use either my front or rear arm. I can throw a jab, or I can throw a cross. The most important thing is to force him to take his weight off his lead leg, which can be done with either your lead or rear arm.
Ou usando o braço de trás, tirando a perna da frente. Ó.
Now we'll spar with my brother Shinzo using the techniques I demonstrated throughout this section. Punching is a fundamental part of karate. It is very important to pay special attention to the details because after you learn the movements involved, you will repeat them thousands of times. To start out, we will focus on the very basics. So stand with your feet roughly a shoulder's width apart and place your fists on your hips.
Inicialmente, a forma básica do movimento, ela começa com as duas mãos na cintura.
Next, extend your arms forward and rotate your fists so that your palms are facing the mat and your thumbs are facing one another. This rotation is very important because it dramatically increases the strength of your punches. When you strike your target, you want to do so using the knuckles of your index and middle fingers. Not only are these knuckles stronger, but it allows you to transfer energy down your arm, out your first two knuckles, and into your target.
Essa virada aqui é muito importante, o movimento básico. Por que no centro sempre? Porque se você fica assim,
it is also very important to strike toward the center of your opponent's body, not the outside.
Sem alvo.
The center is where all his vulnerable areas are.
Então aqui o centro.
Once you get comfortable extending both arms, rotating your fists so that your palms are facing the mat, and connecting with your imaginary target using the first two knuckles of your hand, practice throwing punches with one arm at a time. Just as before, you want to rotate your hand over just prior to striking your target to generate power on your punch and to minimize the damage you cause your hand. At the end of your punch, rotate your hand. The first punch I will show is Kazami-zuki, or the jab. This strike is executed with your lead arm. When throwing this punch, it is important not to let your elbow drift out to the side because your opponent will see the punch coming and defend against it. It is a straight punch and you want to keep your rear hand elevated to protect your face. To execute the jab, step your lead foot forward and extend your lead arm at the same time. If your opponent advances towards you, you can throw the jab without stepping forward to stop in his tracks, but you generate a lot more power when you combine it with a forward step. The forward step also helps you close the distance.
Outro lado.
The jab can be thrown to your opponent's mouth, his nose, and sometimes his chest. Here I demonstrate how to throw a fake punch with your rear hand in order to set up the jab. So I fake with my rear hand, then throw the jab. Now I demonstrate Gatsuki, or the cross. This strike is thrown with your rear arm. When throwing the cross, it is very important to rotate your hips. This helps generate power. Also, remember that your elbow should not drift out to the side. You want to keep it tight to your body to prevent your opponent from spotting the strike. It is also very important to maintain your base. When you throw this punch, you want to enter with your whole body. If you lean forward in order to land the punch, your balance will be compromised, making it very difficult to follow up with a secondary strike. Again, don't lean forward or it will be hard to follow up with more strikes. Just as with the jab, you can throw the cross after leading with the fake. You can also throw the cross to your opponent's stomach. The cross can follow other strikes as well, such as a kick. There are many ways to set up the cross.
Você pode mexer a perna da frente.
You can set it up by throwing a low kick.
Entrar o golpe.
You can set it up by faking with the sweep.
Tocar com a de trás. Entrar o golpe.
The setup doesn't matter. What matters is that you throw the cross using the proper form.
Vamos lá. Continuação do...
Now I will show you Osuki, the strongest punch in karate. You throw the punch with your rear arm, but you do so as you step your rear leg forward.
Chama passo para frente andando.
Why is it the strongest punch?
Por que esse golpe?
Because you throw the strike with all of your weight moving forward. It's a difficult punch to land on your opponent because it's a very long strike. In order to pull it off, you need to recognize when you have the proper distance, and this takes a sharp mind.
Existe uma distância, mas essa distância ela pode ser...
If you don't have the distance to step forward, it's also possible to step your lead leg back and then step your rear leg forward to execute the punch. This allows you to use this technique even when you don't have enough distance between you and your opponent.
Mesma coisa.
Here's the alternate punch. The two variations are the same punch, but you change your footwork due to the distance between you and your opponent. With the normal punch, there is a good deal of distance between you and your opponent. With the alternate punch, there is less distance.
Encaixar na distância do golpe. Esse golpe
The target for this punch can be your opponent's nose, mouth, whatever you want. It's a strong punch that will cause damage no matter where you land. It is important to keep your opposite arm up for protection. Always keep that arm up. This punch is a finisher, but because you have to cover so much distance, the best time to use it is when your opponent is tired. If he isn't tired, then you really have to push off quickly to cover the distance and land with your target.
pode ser utilizar um pouco mais perto.
You can throw this punch from closer, but you have to use the alternate version in order to land.
Normal.
This is a punch that really requires an explosion. If you aren't explosive in your movements, then it won't be effective.
Pode partir de uma finta.
As with the other strikes, you can set up this punch by leading with a different technique. This technique is called Moashi Suki, or a hook. Here I show you how to throw the strike with your lead arm. It is important not to do a haymaker punch.
Conhecido no boxe.
If you throw your arm out to the